Welcome to the Summit Society Information Series, launched in celebration of the West Center's 29th year and in partnership with the Texas Presbyterian Foundation, a mission partner of James L. West. And the Summit Society was established in 2003 to recognize the generosity and foresight of those who joined the center's founders in securing the future of James L. West. And so our Summit Society recognizes individuals who have embraced the vision for the future of the West Center by establishing planned gifts that benefit the West Center, its residents, and its staff well into the future. And we have curated a series of presentations each month throughout the fall, and will as well in the spring, touching upon topics of importance to every person, whether they're related to James L. West or not. We are cognizant of the mission of the West Center and our ability through gift planning to advance the work of James L. West. And we hope that as you think about organizations and nonprofits in the community that continue to make a difference today and well into the future, that you will think of James L. West as you do your charitable gift planning. Stephanie is a resource to the larger community through the Texas Presbyterian Foundation. And the Texas Presbyterian Foundation has an extensive reach throughout Texas. To tell you a little bit about Stephanie, I will share a bit about her background. And Stephanie has been with the Texas Presbyterian Foundation for a very long time. She's an active member in the Presbyterian Church and serves as a partner to organizations such as James L. West that share a mission and a vision that touches upon the priorities of the Texas Presbyterian Foundation and advancing charitable giving. And so Stephanie partnered with us during the pandemic to create the lecture series. We chose to delay the launch of this series until things calmed down a little bit. And with the understanding that the pandemic is now 2.5 years in, and in light of the center's 30th anniversary, we celebrate today's launch. And so Stephanie, I will go ahead and turn the presentation over to you. And today we're going to be talking about a checklist for estate planning and the documents that are needed in preparing.
Great. Thank you so much, Kathy, for that introduction. Again, I'm Stephanie Marsden, one of the relationship managers at Texas Presbyterian Foundation. I have been with the foundation, I'm in my 12th year, and we exist to enable and expand mission in institutions such as James L. West, churches, and other nonprofit institutions, not only in Texas, but around the United States. We actually have partners in 30 states. We did start in Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Texas is in our name and will always be. Our office is located in Irving, Texas, so right in between Dallas and Fort Worth. But I'm coming to you from my home office today. We are still hybrid. And it works for us. We have a great team of technology that allows us to do that as well. So I'm very excited about this summit series. As Kathy said, we've talked about it for a while now. And one of the fun parts about my job is not only reporting to the investment partners on their accounts, but educating people on how to leave gifts, what that looks like, and just the resources that we have about estate planning. And when, the importance of communication when you're talking to someone or about your own estate plan, and also that it's ever changing. So if you say you have a will, but you haven't taken a look at it in about 10 or 15 years, things change, and you may be a new donor to James L. West or a new volunteer, and you may have worked with James L. West for years. But my job is to talk about the different ways to leave a legacy to James L. West, and how you can communicate that with your family as well. So at the first part of this presentation, I just have basically the information that Kathy sent to you all to get excited about the fall seminar series. And of course, today is the first one. We're going to launch it with the how to leave a legacy and the documents that we need. Again, if you have a question about anything that I'm talking about, either put it in chat or flail your arms around and unmute yourself and stop me, because I don't mind that at all. I do these all the time, and I don't want to be a talking head to you as well. So if there's something that intrigues you or you want to know more about it, let me know. If you do have a question, you write it down and you don't want to say anything on this, please feel free to email me or email Kathy. One of the great things about working for TPF is we don't make money for ourselves. I am here to encourage gifts for James L. West and what that looks like in that community and that institution. So again, it has the next seminar will be in August 17th. I'm looking at that going already August. I mean, really, I thought that was a typo. Kathy, nothing against you. I just can't believe it's the end of July already. But anyway, we're moving on. So just so you know, a little bit about TPF, what we do, and what is our partnership with James L. West. Well, we are a nonprofit, faith-based investment firm, again, that enables and expands mission for James L. West. And we are very proud to be a low-cost, high-quality provider. So not only do we invest investment dollars to expand mission in the institution, but we do it at a very low cost. So it helps the nonprofits. The funds are their funds. So if they need to close their account, they're still a partner with us. Not just because they don't have investment money doesn't mean that I can't come in and do workshops and education series and different things like that. Again, we pool our funds on a monthly basis, so that keeps the costs down. And we have very transparent reporting pieces that we report to boards and to sessions and committees as well. So with that, there's some key focuses or key considerations and focuses that I want to talk about today. And as you can see, the three rings on the right-hand side, it's really looking at estate planning and legacy giving as a whole. It's loving God, loving your neighbor, and really making a difference. And what does that look like for you individually, for your families, and for the families that James L. West serves? So we want to consider that the continuation of the James L. West Center and its mission. We want to contribute to the viability of the institution and its mission and goals. We want to provide funds for launching new initiatives and programs, and what that looks like in the life of the client that James L. West serves. And then, of course, serving the needs of the changing community and what that looks like. Kathy mentioned earlier that coming out of the pandemic, needs are very different. And I don't think James L. West has missed a beat on the needs of the people that they are serving, and the strategic forward looking on how that's supposed to be, whether it be we're on Zoom right now, and in 3 years, maybe we'll be together during this summit series. But I think that there's some good things that came out of the pandemic. And one of that is the fact that we can reach a broader people with Zoom. And also, like Kathy said, she's recording this. So the people who aren't able to be here are able to maybe go back on their own time and get some nuggets out of this presentation that they may need. So a question I always ask is, who leaves a legacy? I think that a lot of times people say, well, I can't leave a legacy. I don't have $1 million in the bank, or I'm not old enough. I'm in my 40s and 50s, and I I'm really just trying to get kids through school and college and trying to buy them a car and all of that kind of stuff. But the answer to this question is that everyone leaves a legacy. And one of the things about TPF, and we'll talk about it later in the tools that we provide, is you don't have to be a millionaire to be philanthropic, and you can leave a legacy at any age. Even if you're not ready to maybe open up a charitable gift annuity, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and is for maybe people 65 and older, it's a good thing to have that knowledge now. So maybe you can plan for it in the future when it comes to leaving a legacy to James L. West or in honor of somebody that you know. So when we talk about the whole story, again, it goes back to communication. Communication to your loved ones, to your best friend, to your church family. What is your story to tell? What is the story that you have that links you to James L. West? It is a beautiful ministry to people in need who need it. And what is that story for you? And what is their story to tell? And maybe they can't tell their story anymore, and maybe you can. And that's a legacy. So the important piece of the story to tell and what that legacy may be and what their legacy is huge. And a lot of times I'll talk to different committees and they'll share an amazing story. And I'll say, well, have you shared that with your congregation? Have you shared that with your board? Well, no, I've never thought of that before. And I said, that's a great story. Write it down, share it. When I talk to people like Kathy, who is, the development person for James L. West, I encourage her, have you shared that on your website? Have you shared it in a format that story will encourage more stories to be told? And so that's why I always put this slide in here, because it's communication. It's how you want to be remembered and how you want to remember your loved ones. So moving on to, this is one of the resources that we have, and it's a estate planning checklist. It's small, I know that, but this is going to be available for you. It's a PDF, you can print it. I encourage everyone to have an estate planning checklist. And for me personally, and this was years ago, I've lost my mom, but I sat down with my mom and dad in their backyard, and they were both teachers. My dad was higher education, a dean, and he doesn't have a lot of assets, but he worked hard and was a choral director for almost 50 years. And we sat in his backyard, and he opened up a manila folder, and he handed it to me and said, Stephanie, this is the stuff. This is like and I've had people call it the if I die folder. I don't call it that, but it's really all of this information. It was his credit card information. It was power of attorney, tax information, and what he did, and I didn't even ask him to do this. This was about 15 years ago that he did it. So it was way before I was doing any of these presentations. And he gave that to me and said, here's my social security number, just in case anything happens to your mom and I. And I so appreciate that. And I tell him now, Dad, I'm going to take you on the road with me. And he kind of chuckles and says, sorry, I'm retired. I can't do that anymore. But these are just some ideas for you guys to think about and to start thinking about what identification numbers, because, and hopefully we can add to this. So if you guys think of something that we need to add to this, please do, because what we do is we share information, and that information will hopefully help someone to think about, okay, I didn't think about this documentation I may have, because it's always good to get the ducks in the row before something happens. So when that illness happens, or maybe the death happens, and it's happens out of the blue, that you kind of have everything set and ready to go. And the next page is just It's just the second page to the estate planning checklist. Excuse me. And we do have this information in a folder when we partner with James L. West that we can give to you either virtually or in person. And I'm happy to send some of the folders to Kathy, which has some of the information that you'll be seeing today. So let us know if you would like me to send that to you. It's available.
And Stephanie, just a note, I will email this PDF to all of our pre-registered attendees. And for James L. West families, we'll be mailing this with the series information. And so we'll make sure as well by putting it on our website that it'll be available. Great.
Thank you, Kathy. This next really little bitty slide is a suggested bequest forms. And it says of the church, but just know that it's for institutions as well. So it's just sample wordings for you guys to take a look at. A lot of times when I do these presentations, I will say, how many of you have a will? And some will raise their hands, and I'll say, okay, well, how have you looked at it in a while? Just like I mentioned earlier. And a lot of people will say no, or I'll have people come up after the presentation and say, I don't have a will. It's okay, but we definitely suggest that you do. And again, because things change and maybe you haven't looked at it, there's things called a codicil where you can go in and just very easily change wording of a bequest if you wanted to change that. The percentage that may go to an institution, or it may, some of your estate may go to several institutions in a church or family members. So this is just a resource for you as well. So some tools that TPF offers, and part of the way that we partner with James L. West is to offer these planning tools for individuals. So not only do we do the institutional investing, but we also work with individuals on charitable giving. So we offer, again, information on how to write a bequest, wording for a bequest. If somebody or a family wanted to open up an individual endowment to benefit the West Center, we can do that. And we're going to go into these a little bit further. Donor advised funds have been very popular since 2016-17. And we offer those, administer those. Charitable gift annuities, and then we have charitable trusts. Now, a lot of times, Kathy wears lots of hats at the James L. West Center. So it would take a lot for her to administer these charitable gifts. One of the ways that we partner is we have somebody in our office who is designated just for individuals. So she takes all the phone calls for family members who are trying to figure out, okay, the family member has passed away. What do we do? When do we get our check? When does the West Center get their check? She does all of the administration of that. Say the James L. West is doing a special project and you have a donor advised fund. You would call TPF and say, her name is Jennifer. You would call Jennifer and say, Jennifer, I would like a $1,500 check cut out of my donor advised fund, or email her, and to be cut to the James L. West Center. And she does all the administration, all of the check cutting on that. And we do that again for a very low cost for the individual, same as the institution that I talked about earlier.
And Stephanie, if I might add, as you mentioned, we wear a lot of hats at James L. West, and in many development offices, there is a gift planning director or an expert on the staff that works with donors who would like to do advanced planning. So planning outside of outright cash gifts. We do receive appreciated stock at James L. West, but understanding where my expertise begins and my generalized expertise begins, bringing on a partner that's a mission partner like TPF that is affiliated. We're a faith-inspired organization, having been launched in partnership with First Presbyterian Church, that we honor the legacy and bring in those experts that understand our organization and can speak directly to our donors. And the donors continue to be donors to James L. West in partnership with TPF.
Thanks so much, Kathy. And, Kathy's job is to talk to people about, she's doing the fundraising, she's doing the annual gift. But many times, Kathy's ear has to listen for the donor who is trying to get around to, how can I leave a planned gift? And so that is where Kathy and I would work together and say, okay, let's talk to this donor, this individual donor, and we put all of the information that I'm about to talk about in front of them. And many times I will meet with a donor to benefit a church or benefit an institution, and we may sit down and they want to talk about a charitable gift annuity, but eventually go with a donor advised fund because they have the understanding and it's more articulated to them. So we meet them where they are. And that's very important. So Kathy and I are listening to the donor and meet them where their intentions are. Maybe different intentions, like for different things. So they may want several different gifts that they want to do. So and again, that's a fun part because we get to really honor that donor and help them honor the people that they are that they want to leave the legacy for. So first of all, I want to talk about a bequest, which many of you probably know what a bequest is, but this really leaves an important message to the beneficiary. It says, I love what you're doing. I love how you're taking care of my family member or my friend. And I want to make sure that long after, I am gone and maybe the person that I loved is gone, that you're continuing to serve people the way you served the person that I loved. So it's really a way to communicate that. It can be given as a lump sum or a percentage of your estate, and that can be changed. Again, it's amendable. And it can be, again, if you, Kathy mentioned earlier that she also works with gifts of stock. And we have information where we accept the gifts of stock when it's liquidated, and the cash can go in there too. So that can also be a way to give a gift to James L. West. Next is a very, very, very busy slide. But again, I am not going to read this to you, but endowments, which I mentioned earlier on the tools slide, is a really creative way for people to leave a legacy. Now, the idea of endowing your pledge. So I'm going to talk about this on this slide, but again, you can get creative with endowments. And also, I will mention that at TPF, our minimums are very low. Again, we're a nonprofit. So to open up an endowment fund or a donor advised fund, the minimum is $1,000. And so say you want to endow your pledge, and the idea in the example here of Anita Bowman, again, you can print this out and read it later. I've memorized it, so which is good because I'm not a math person. But the idea of this is Anita Bowman wanted to endow her pledge. Now, this could be a pledge to the church, but it could also be an annual gift that people want to endow to James L. West. So Anita is 71 years old, and she has $30,000 that she wanted to endow to the church to keep pledging in her death. So she did the document with TPF. She went ahead and invested the $30,000 in an endowment for TPF, to know that after she passes, for the 5 years in her death, the church is going to receive $6,000 each year. Now, that $6,000 is not going to, she set it up to keep the lights on, to pay the staff, to go into the operating cost as if she is still there. So for 5 years, for the first 4 years, the church will receive the $6,000. In the 5th year, we would close that endowment. The church would receive the $6,000, and hopefully whatever that investment made, as it's invested in our balance fund, which is how we invest endowments and donor advised funds. So TPF does not make any money off of the endowment. The institution or the church would receive all of those funds, and then we would close that out. So the thing that is so beautiful about her setting up an endowment of a pledge is that even in her death, she's still giving as if she was still giving out of her pledge that she would give every year. And the reason why we put a 5-year as the example of this is because hopefully other donors will come in that 5 years that she is gone and replace that pledge. So we can continue to keep the lights on, continue to pay the staff and different things like that. But again, it's different. You could put a different year amount on there, a different dollar amount. It could be $5,000 that you set up the endowment for, different things like that. So endowments are really fun and creative and a beautiful way to leave a legacy. As I mentioned before, the donor advised fund, very popular because of the charitable tax deduction that people can get. It allows anonymous giving. A lot of people like to give anonymously. So as I mentioned, maybe the West Center has a special program or a special initiative, a beautification of the property that they're trying to raise money for. And the donor has the donor advised fund that has a significant amount of money in it and may want to administer a check to give to that out of their donor advised fund. So it is a flexible way to give to charitable organizations. Not only can they set it up to give to the West Center, but they can give to other organizations too. So if there's a donor that has the 5 charities that they love to give to at the end of the year, and they know that, they can set this donor advised fund up, get the tax deduction, and then we'll administer those payments out to the institutions that they love. Another thing about a donor advised fund that is a really beautiful thing is to set it up in the giving between generations. So if there is a donor that wants to set up a donor advised fund and at their death, they want it all to be distributed, they can do that. But if they want to set it up to go to maybe their children or their grandchildren, they can do that as well. So their legacy lives on through their generations. So it's actually teaching that philanthropy and really giving on a different level to the families. So it's the donor advised funds. And also we just have these slides, but there's a lot more information. Again, if people are interested in that, that's when they can sit down with Kathy and I and really dive into what may be the best for them. So the next slide is a charitable gift annuity, and this is what we call a split interest. So say, of course, the donor would receive the charitable deduction for a portion of their gift, but so they are getting a tax deduction at the time of the gift, and then they are receiving a portion of that gift throughout the remainder of their life at tax-free, a portion of that. It sometimes reduces capital gain taxes. With appreciated assets also, it can be funded. And then again, at your death, the institution would receive that money, or you can set it up to go to an institution or the church of your choice as well, or other institutions. But the one thing that, and again, this is the one that the older you are, the more benefit it is, because you are receiving a a payment each year, or you can split it up, twice a year. But if you are receiving a payment on this, a lot of our donors will set up a charitable gift annuity, receive the payments, and set up another charitable gift annuity with those payments that they have accumulated over the years. One thing I do want to mention, that a charitable gift annuity is irrevocable. So if someone gives $10,000 for a charitable gift annuity, you cannot add to that, but you can set up many charitable gift annuities. Like I said, we've had donors that either use their money for that split interest gift, or they set up another charitable gift annuity. We had a gentleman when I first came on board with TPF that had 23 gift annuities with us. And all of those charitable gift annuities were set to, the beneficiary was Tulsa University, which is a Presbyterian university, Presbyterian institution. He loved education. And 4 days after Mr. Blair died, the university called TPF and said, "Did you know Mr. Blair died?" And we said, "Yes, and you will be distributing your $2.2 million. So not only was he receiving money throughout his lifetime, he still distributed, even with receiving a distribution for himself. He distributed $2.2 million out of those 23 gift annuities for the institution. So this is kind of an idea of how the charitable gift annuity works. I picked $10,000, but it could be $100,000. It could be $25,000 and anything in between. So during your lifetime, the income, the charitable gift will go to TPF. We will administer that charitable gift annuity. And after the lifetime, the legacy to the charity, your legacy, the institution will receive the remainder of that gift. Now, if you ask, well, what is it, 50-50? Is it 70-30? It is 70-30 right now. I think that Jennifer, the last time I spoke with Jennifer, our rates to the charity would be about 70% of that $10,000, let's just say, that James L. West would receive. And it's also based on life expectancy. People are living longer. It is a fact that people who are charitable givers do live longer. We kind of chuckle about that, but that's kind of a beautiful thing. So the people who are living to be 103, 104, which we've had people do that, the charity doesn't receive anything, but what TPF will honor and are insured on is that individual will receive their payment throughout their lifetime. And it's really it's the intent of being charitable and about leaving a legacy and being intentional on that planned gift that we want to make sure that we communicate to people. And these are just a few ways to talk to Kathy about what might work for you. And with those documentations in the estate planning checklist that we talked about earlier, there may be several of those planning tools that you have in there, but the important piece of it is if it's a planned gift or it's an outright gift or just your social security number and everything in between, those are really important information to share, to be transparent with. And there may be people that that may not have family members anymore, but still may need help with planning their estate plan to make sure that what they do, the assets that they do have, are not going to the state, are not going to places that they may not have a tie to, that they're really that person is being honored, that they are honoring a place that they have served, that has served them. And so those are just a few ways that TPF partners with James L. West. And at this time, I want to take any questions. I didn't take the full hour because those are our tools. And so I would, any questions that people may have, Kathy, if you have anything to add to that.
So
I take those now.
thank you, Stephanie. And I really appreciate the overview of TPF because the tools are both accessible, and functional, for really everyone, as we think about ways that we can advance our charitable intent, again, at James L. West or other organizations that we're affiliated with. For the estate planning checklist, how important is it, and at what point in the process of pulling these papers together, is it important to have that family conversation, and where would you suggest that these documents reside? I am a parent, my children are young, but should my estate planning documents then reside with another family member, or should they be deposited somewhere else that another adult knows where they are? If that question makes sense, sort of outside of my spouse, myself, and my children, who are those advisors or people around us that also need to know?
That's a really good question, Kathy, because I think that another family member outside of your husband, wife, children, another family member should have that information. An attorney, definitely. If you have an attorney that draws up the estate plan for you, a will, and I would say a safety deposit box, or if you have a safe in your home, or just the important files. I know people that just have the filing system, and they have that in there, but just so people know where it is and know, it's kind of like my dad handing the manila folder over to me. Well, now it's my job to make sure somebody else knows where that manila folder is, just in case I'm not available, and definitely that my brother knows where that is, even though I'm the executor. I think the conversation can be as easy as it was in the backyard at my dad's house by his pool with my mom. It could be, but I think that it needs to be intentional and planned. So it doesn't need to be a surprise. A lot of times when we talk about estate planning, people immediately go to death and dying. And that is not at all why I do what I do or the intention of what I do. The intention is to have a plan before something happens, before an illness comes about, before an early death comes about, anything like that. It's really about being prepared. And thank goodness, my parents did this before my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So I had this conversation way before, which I am grateful for, because I personally, I kind of had the ducks in the row. And so when everything was happening, I already had that information. So it can be a casual conversation, but don't catch people off guard, because everybody deals with death, grief, and even talking about this kind of stuff in different ways. But I would softly just promote it as, hey, I think this is really important to our family.
Thank you. Thank you. We have those advanced planning conversations within our organization at different levels. And for our families who are on the call, our family council meeting next month, we'll talk about advanced planning. And so know that topic's coming up. Stephanie, I know that you're always accessible. And what I will do is, in addition to the recording from today and the resources provided, we will make sure that the PDF becomes a fillable PDF so that you can check each line as you go through, and create the resource of those forms and documents. I will make sure to add contact information to the bottom for myself and for Stephanie. If there are any questions about where to find those resources that are on that form. And we are looking forward to next month's conversation on August 17th. And we are going to be talking about empowering your legacy for generations to come. And we are doing this series also in partnership with Think Giving and Kathy Reagan Sheffield, who is a plain giving professional in Fort Worth. And so I thank everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Stephanie. We will be providing the recording as well. And we hope that you'll plan to join us on August 17th. And you can sign up for the series of presentations through December using the QR code that's provided or by visiting the West Center's education page on the jameslwest.org website. So thank you for joining us today.